Hey everyone, it's Nikolai Pavlov. It's good to see you. Today we're going to look at using variables in Power BI. You have probably seen the VAR words in some formulas, right? Usually in longer and more complex DAX calculations. Essentially, VAR stands for variable. And when you're doing complex calculations, it's common to see several, or in some cases, many nested calculations within other calculations. So when that happens, the logic can become really hard, and it becomes, challenging to read formulas, especially if they're written by other people. Variables can help to improve performance. They improve readability. They can simplify debugging, right? If you have a mistake, if you used variables, you can go back and it's easier to see where a mistake could be. And they can also reduce complexity. I have already talked about this. All right, now let's go to Power BI and actually take a look at some real cases. So here I have a report. I already have one measure, total sales. So what I did here, I created a table visual and I put the month, name, year, and total sales into the table. So you can see that there were some amount of sales from January 2011 to December 2013. This is very straightforward. Now, let's say that my goal is to find out year-over-year growth. A simple formula to calculate year-over-year growth is essentially you subtract original from new, and then you divide all of that by original. So the example could be if yesterday I sold 12 apples and today I sold 10 apples, then my growth would be 20%, which is calculated by subtracting 10 from 12 and then dividing all of that by 10, which equals to 0.2, which is 20%. So yeah, we're going to use the same formula essentially to calculate the year-over-year growth in our example. We are going to use divide function here. We have divide, and in the numerator we have to subtract the new from original. Original being total sales in this case, and minus we need to calculate last year's sales. So we're going to do that. We will use calculate total sales, use same period last year, dates. So this is the numerator, this is the top part of our formula. So we have this divided by original, and the original is last year's sales too in this case. So again, we will use calculate to find out last year's sales. Same period last year. Right, close bracket 1, close bracket 2. Okay, now we'll put it percent, and let's do just one decimal. All right, all good. We can see that, starting 2012, obviously we don't have dates for 2010. That's why we don't have any growth rate in 2011, right? But starting from 2012, we can see that there are certain numbers. So it looks like the sales haven't been really good for this company, but whatever. It's in our learning case, we have calculated year-over-year growth. Now take a look at this formula. This formula, to me, it looks really complicated. You have the top and then the bottom, and then we're using calculate and same period last year twice. So I'm going to show you how to use variables and simplify this formula and make it a lot better. Take a look. So I will name this measure year-over-year growth VAR. So we know which one's which one. Well, first thing what you need to do is you need to set your variables. In other words, you need to tell DAX what your variables will be in this case. We write down VAR, and then we give the name of that variable. Let's write down previous year sales. And this variable will be equal to calculate same period last year, dates, date. All right. Good. Now let's introduce the second variable, which is going to be the difference. The second variable will be difference between original sales and the new sales. So I'm going to call it difference, and it's going to be total sales minus previous year sales. I already have that, so it pops up. Click tab, good to go. Now, after you set two variables, there's a function called return, and it essentially returns the actual formula. So first you give variables, and then you return function using these two variables. So let's take a look. You know, instead of writing this long formula like in our last measure, we can simply divide, right? It's super easy. Divide difference, right, by previous year sales. Format it, and if we put this, all right, you see there's no difference between the two. There's really no difference. The difference is, take a look at the formula. So this, if I formatted DAX correctly, it'll probably be, you know, a lot more lines, like at least 4 or 5. And compare this function here. We set variables, and then we simply calculate. You can of course do this by a more traditional way, right? Like I showed before, where you create a sales last year measure first, right? By calculating, using same period, by using the calculate and inside the same period last year. And then you will use the function divide total sales minus last year's sales and divide by last year's sales, right? You can do that, but this way you have to create an extra measure. And in this particular case, it probably doesn't matter because you may need the last year's sales measure anyways, but in other situations, right, it's better not to produce extra calculations that you will not use. So that is why by using variables, you can get around one or sometimes two steps, and you don't have to create extra measures, but instead use variables. So I suggest you to practice more with variables. This was a really easy example, obviously, but as you learn how to use them, you know, they can really make your life a lot easier when working with DAX. I hope you like this video, and if you're liking the content, you know, consider subscribing to my channel, and I'll see you guys later.